The United States Coast Guard, a military service and branch of the armed forces, operates in time of peace as a federal agency under the Treasury Department and in time of war within the naval establishment. It has specific statutory authority and responsibility for developing, establishing, maintaining, and operating rescue facilities and for rendering aid to distressed persons and property on and over the high seas and waters subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. It may render aid to persons and protect and save property at any time and any place at which Coast Guard facilities are available and can be effectively utilized. In carrying out such responsibilities, the Coast Guard utilizes many types of vessels, ranging from the smaller search boats through larger cutters and buoy tenders, which operate for extended periods at sea. Even the large Coast Guard icebreakers have been utilized for search and rescue duties. Coast Guard helicopters are the workhorses of aviation, serving in coastal and offshore searches, not extending far enough at sea to require the use of the amphibious planes used in searching larger areas of the ocean. The turboprop planes, the C-130s, can maintain over-ocean searches over long distances and extensive areas. Radio stations are integrated into the SAR communications network, extending along the Atlantic and Pacific coasts and in the Gulf area. They also maintain radio guard of distress and emergency frequencies. Coast Guard LORAN stations in various parts of the world supply accurate navigation service for searches. The Atlantic Merchant Vessel Report System, called Amver, is a new tool of search and rescue and is effective in the Atlantic Ocean north of the equator, including the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea. Surface pictures compiled by Amver from vessel position reports are available to all rescue coordination centers and to ocean station vessels at sea. Coast Guard Commander Eastern Area is located in New York, where his Rescue Coordination Center and the Amver Center function in the Custom House near the lower tip of the island. 3rd Coast Guard District headquarters are also located here. Here, a large wall chart provides a continuous picture of SAR incidents by means of ship and aircraft symbols. As the case progresses, the chart is kept up to date with symbols showing the positions of all units involved. The Amver system has proved to be an effective instrument in the hands of search and rescue coordinators in implementing rescue operations in the North Atlantic Ocean. The value of the system in SAR operations is dependent upon several factors. Accuracy is essential. Information received in Amver Center is based on data contained in the Amver messages sent by merchant vessels. It is subject to no more error than any dead reckoning plot. However, in the Amver Center, the large number of plots is maintained by a computer, which speedily gives the dead reckoning position of any ship which has sent in an Amver report. Amver messages come into the center on a teletype printer. They are then verified and checked carefully for errors before being punched into an IBM card. In times of need, however, one key to any vessel's safety lies in the accurate position reporting of all vessels in any given area. The modern vessel of today has more protection of men and ship at sea than ever before in the long history of navigation. Yet accidents to ship and crew do happen, and when least expected. The wise and careful captain of a vessel never relaxes his vigilance. All provisions for ensuring safety must be observed. This captain points out to his officers that the regular position reports for Amver must be sent on schedule. It is their responsibility to see that such transmissions are made at proper times. The ship in trouble may turn out to be their own. The Amver system, operated by the United States Coast Guard, uses reports sent voluntarily by merchant vessels to keep positions up to date. Merchant vessels of any flag may send simple reports described in Amver instructions to any of 17 Coast Guard radio stations that pass them without charge to Coast Guard New York. The reporting is routine, but the value of the reports can be great. The first mate carries out the captain's orders to provide the radio officer with information for the scheduled Amver report. Whatever the registry of the vessel, cooperation with Amver of the United States Coast Guard is added insurance against hazards at sea. Ships plying the waters of the North Atlantic send Amver message reports to the Coast Guard via radio through ocean station vessels or Coast Guard radio stations ashore, which in turn pass these reports to the Amver Plot Center in New York. Vessels send an initial report upon departure, position reports every 15 degrees of latitude or longitude, whichever occur first, a special report whenever actual position is more than 25 miles from projected position, and an arrival report. Vessels on short coastwise trips send only the departure and arrival reports. Amver message reports are received in the Amver Plot Center by teletype, where they are verified and carefully checked for errors before being punched into an IBM card, converting to electronic data processing language. As cards are accumulated, they are fed through the card input of the 305 Raymac, and the punched card data is entered on the magnetic drums on the disk storage unit. Immediately available information on up to 5,000 vessels underway is accessible here. Manual interrogation for the individual vessel information is available through the console, where the answer is automatically typed. Automatic interrogation for group or general vessel information is available by punched cards in the desired format through the card output unit. Cards are then manually carried to the sorter unit, which arranges the output cards in any desired sequence or selects specified cards as required. After the cards are sorted, they can be fed through the card-controlled tape punch, which converts the card information into the teletype tape, and thence through the teletype distributor transmitter to the interrogator. From here, it is sent out to any rescue coordination center on the search and rescue communications net. The IBM cards can also be fed through the accounting machine, where the card information is printed in the desired format, such as routine reports for daily operation and ship's arrival reports to the captain of the port offices. These several units combined compose the electronic data processing machine used to provide necessary data from reporting vessels to determine their positions and facilities. The visual display of incidents shows when an Amver surface picture may be needed. The controller in the RCC maintains direct contact with search and rescue facilities by telephone. Direct teletype lines connect him with the Coast Guard's radio network. A message is coming in now from one of the radio stations. A tanker is reporting an emergency at sea. A fire has broken out in its engine room area. A vessel afire at sea requires the fastest action possible. The controller, with the vessel's position stated in the teletype message, orders that the incident be shown on the wall chart as an emergency SAR case. Action commences with a double check on the tanker's reported position. The radio station receiving the vessel's SOS is queried by teletype on location reported by the tanker. The controller's assistant sets up the incident on the chart. Immediately, the controller proceeds to put the SAR organization into action by teletype messages or direct hotline telephones. A communication network connects all radio facilities in coastal areas with additional telephone hotlines connecting SAR centers. Maintained 24 hours a day, these lines provide immediate access to RCCs for alerting the search and rescue network. A second teletype message from the radio station confirms that no error was made in their transmission of the tanker's reported position. The controller then asks Amver to give him a surface picture of merchant ships near the distressed tanker. While the Amver computer is electronically scanning the area for other ships, another teletype message comes in to RCC. Again, the radio station reports continuing SOS calls from the tanker at same position. The controller orders a Coast Guard SAR aircraft to find the tanker. The aircraft will be able to drop emergency equipment if necessary and assist in directing the nearest surface vessel to the scene. Coast Guard air stations maintain around-the-clock duty for search and rescue requirements. A duty officer receives the hotline call from the controller for an air search for the tanker and sounds the alarm that will send a plane's crew on the double. Standby plane crews are always alert for such emergency search and rescue calls. From the moment the siren sounds, they're on the double to board their plane and become airborne toward the area of their search. Whether by day or night, in all kinds of weather, Coast Guard planes are always ready to commence aerial searches when the call comes. Planes like this can land and take off from land or water. While commercial planes normally do not constitute search and rescue facilities, when there is one in the search area, it is asked to watch for the objectives. The pilot of this big jet decreases altitude to provide better visibility of the ocean below. A Coast Guard long-range turboprop plane, already airborne on a training flight, is also diverted to the scene. Back in Search and Rescue Center, the controller is receiving reports via radio and teletype from the searching planes and from the tanker reporting progress in fighting the fire. The FCC, Federal Communications Commission, Radio Direction Finder Network is alerted. FCC stations at Searsport, Maine and Laurel, Maryland determined through direction finders 2 lines of position of the tanker. A third FCC station at Fort Lauderdale, Florida, through the direction finder, determines a 3rd line of position. The intersection of the 3 lines gives the approximate position at sea of the distressed tanker. Information is transmitted to RCC. The controller will be able to maintain the latest position of the tanker as long as it is able to transmit. The latest information on the tanker is sent to the Coast Guard Air Station, where the duty officer relays it to the rescue planes. Based on this additional information, the search plane alters course. In areas as large as that controlled by this RCC, there may be a number of SAR incidents occurring at the same time. They too require the attention of the controller. He must make decisions, affect judgment, request information, and take action on many matters. But he always must return to the most critical incident as more information comes in regarding it. When Amver previously received the controller's SERPIC request, the watch supervisor acknowledged that such a SERPIC would be provided. A search for such information commences at the console. It comes from the record storage, the memory of the Amver operation. The watch supervisor types out the request for the SERPIC of the desired area where the tanker has been fixed. In turn, this sets in operation the Amver record storage unit. In this memory unit lies the key to the use of Amver as a valuable tool of search and rescue. Some 50 disks are stacked on a spindle rotating at 1200 RPMs. The disks are coated like ordinary tape recording tapes to retain information and play back as required and requested through this sorting arm. Some 3,000 vacuum tubes, not shown, perform the computer's complex operations. The data furnished by the memory unit through the sorting arm, such as the listing of vessels' positions, courses, speeds, and those having a doctor aboard, in the area of the tanker, is then typed in machine language on standard cards. The perforated cards are then fed through the sorting process to provide explicit information. This information, punched into a transmitting tape, is fed into a special teletype machine for transmission to the requesting RCC. This SERPIC of vessels in the general area of the tanker has been provided in minutes instead of in the hours necessary through older methods. Thus, Amver becomes a very valuable tool when time counts most. The controller now acknowledges from the Amver Center the receipt of the SERPIC. This surface picture gives not only the positions of vessels within 200 miles, but also indicates which ones carry doctors. Another message from the tanker has been received by the controller. The tanker now reports fire under control, but an injured crewman requires medical attention. The controller originates an answer to the tanker, telling the master that the closest vessel is another tanker and that it has a company doctor aboard. With this information available, the master of the distressed tanker can then release other ships that may have answered his SOS. The rescue plane arrives in the area of the stricken vessel and commences his search pattern. In the vast expanse of ocean, even an object as large as a vessel may not be immediately located. But the tanker is easily identified now, for she appears to be afire again. Aboard the tanker, the engine room fire has re-flashed, and the vessel is again in danger. While the fire is fought below decks, crewmen cool down bulkheads and doors on deck to the engine room. Access to the engine room from above must be provided by cooling the area sufficiently for crewmen to enter. Fighting fire aboard ship is a difficult task. The fire, once thought to be out, is now raging again because of a reflash of hot oils. The rescue plane orbits the scene and contacts the second tanker. Reports continue coming in from the tanker and the plane via shore radio and teletype to the controller in the RCC. The orbiting search plane gives the distressed vessel information about the approaching surface assistance. The radio man relays information by voice tube to the captain on the tanker's bridge. The radio man's information from the plane indicates that the approaching tanker will soon be within radar range. The captain instructs the navigation officer to begin radar observations for the assisting vessel. The approaching tanker has been kept informed by radio of the condition of the unconscious crewman, and the doctor has recommended transfer from the distressed tanker so he may be taken ashore at the nearest port for hospitalization. With the assisting vessel approaching, the patient is carried up from the dispensary for transfer by boat to the other vessel. Transfers of patients at sea, even in calm waters, are exacting operations. When the assisting vessel is on scene, lowering away commences. The speed is lessened to provide more margin of safety. Under standard search and rescue procedures, the search plane maintains an orbiting pattern overhead while the transfer is being accomplished. The assisting vessel has cleared her boat davits in order to hoist the boat to deck level, one reliable method of bringing stretcher cases aboard when equipments are compatible. The patient is transferred to the deck where the doctor is standing by. The patient will receive the necessary interim treatment on the way to the nearest port and hospital. Thus, the SAR organization, with Amver's assistance, was able to bring the nearest and best available help to the mariner. The doctor reports that air evacuation is not necessary. The stricken vessel reports that it is able to proceed at reduced speed. The distress phase is now over, and all units return to normal operation. But the progress of the damaged tanker will receive special attention until it is safe in port. The Coast Guard Search and Rescue Organization is a complex chain of men, machinery, and electronics, all maintained in a high state of readiness, 24 hours a day, every day of the year. Amver, a strong link in this chain, performs by rapidly locating for a distressed vessel or aircraft those vessels capable of timely assistance. Emergency calls received by ocean station vessels and Coast Guard radio stations at various locations are transmitted on the Search and Rescue Communications Network and by other available means to the Search and Rescue Center in the area involved. A controller is always on duty to handle all emergencies concerned with vessels and planes, aided by the new tool, Amver. The Coast Guard ships, stationed in many parts of the world, its helicopters, its search planes, are ready to respond to any emergencies. The safety of life and property at sea is among the missions of the United States Coast Guard.